97. Independent Senator here in Kildare, Aubrey McCarthy, is on the line because he's urged the government to reform the national planning framework to boost the production of new accommodation. Senator McCarthy from Punchestown is also the co-founder of Tiglin, a charity aiding those struggling with homelessness and addiction, and he made these remarks in the Seanad after Minister for Housing James Browne failed to provide clear timelines for housing targets. Good morning to you, Aubrey. What is this national planning framework and why do you want it to be reformed by the government?
Good morning, Owen, and thanks for having me on. Owen, you know, over the last 20 years, I've been working with people that have come undone, that are marginalised, that are in poverty, and a lot that have become homeless. So in the last, you see the figures last week that were released by the Housing Agency, and there are nearly 15,500 individuals that are homeless in emergency accommodation. And of those, 4,300 odd are young children. So the National Planning Framework is a document, and that document is meant to guide the planning and development for the whole country over the next 20 years. But my problem is that even since the census between 16 and 22, the population has risen by 8%. So that's 5.1 million. And then even since the census, it has risen again by 230,000. So a lot of the data that we're basing a planning framework on is out of date. So what happens, for example, in Kildare, we'll be basing our housing numbers on outdated data. So it has to be looked at again. It was open for public consultation last July, and it still not has been finalised. So that's a big problem. And I've asked on the Minister to allow local authorities to alleviate housing pressures by allowing them to build in areas of Tier 1 lands. Now, just to the listeners, Tier 1 lands are those that are already zoned and are classified as fully serviced. So I'm saying allow those for social housing outside of the development plan.
It's interesting that we're talking to you this morning, Aubrey, because yesterday there was kind of an exchange of words between the central bank and the planning authority or the Institute of Planning, where the Institute was saying, well, the problem is that there's not enough lending going on from the banks for people, while the central bank were saying that the issue is to do with planning. Where do you see the issue lying when it comes to housing?
Well, I know, even as an approved housing body, I can see certain developments taking nearly 4 years. So by the time you get there, the data that you've based your development on is out of date. It's like in the last month alone, 92 more adults have become homeless, 50 more children and 21 more families. So we're going in the wrong direction. And my problem here is we're always talking about this is a crisis, but we're not treating it as a crisis. And I do feel that if the government, if we focused on social and affordable housing, focused on the people in emergency accommodation, I think this could turn into a good news story by allowing pressure valve release for the likes of local authorities to make decisions for social housing on Tier 1 land. So the planning system, nobody can argue that it's working well. So therefore we have to look at that, and that's why I've asked for them to look at the national planning framework. If you can imagine, there's 4,363 children in hotel rooms while we're on this phone call, without being able to study, without being able to play, without being able to invite their friends over. So I just don't think that's acceptable, and I think it's a failure, even in basic human decency.
Is the government going to listen to you?
I will say the new minister, James Browne, he's saying all the right stuff, and he's telling me he's going to get somebody that's going to be a maverick, basically outside of the department to lead the housing initiative. And if that happens, I do think we can get somewhere. But also remember, even the government forecast for housing is something like 41,000 this year, but they're not going to meet those targets. They haven't met them last year. But even with the 41,000 units, Irish Water are saying they can't really connect more than 35,000 in a year. The grid is saying they can't do any more than 37,000 in a year. So I don't know if we need to look at the whole infrastructure, and we've been talking about it for years. Now is the time for action.
All right, before I let you go, Aubrey, am I right in saying I saw a headline during the week that you weren't ruling out a run for Áras an Uachtaráin, a run in the presidential election? Just let us know what's happening there. What's that about?
You know, Owen, I literally am just new to the Senate, so I'm trying to work out how all this works. It's fascinating and interesting. I got 3 phone calls from the Irish Times, and they asked me, is this something you would consider? I said I got a number of phone calls from councillors, and I said, never say never, but certainly I'm focusing on the Senate at the moment.
All right, it's not something that you're actively seeking at the moment?
It's not, no. I mean, I always listen to soundings. Listen, the people that voted me in, what I do resonates with them. For 20 years, I've been working with, the Homeless Cafe in Dublin. I've 9 different centres under Tiglin. So I've always worked to make a difference. If I could make a difference and people felt I could make a difference in that role, well then I certainly would listen.
All right, we'll wait and see what happens down the line, but for the moment you're independent Kildare Senator up in the Shannon and also co-founder of Tiglin, Aubrey McCarthy. Morning to you, Aubrey, and thanks for your time. Lots more to come after the break, including Crime Time with Kildare Gardaí.